You have been lied to about what makes you attractive, told that being nice and agreeable will win you love, when in reality, it only guarantees you will be overlooked, forgotten, and ultimately abandoned by the very women you desperately want to impress. The pain you feel when you watch her choose someone else, someone who seems less worthy, less caring, less invested in her happiness. This is not an accident, but the inevitable result of living by values that were designed to keep you weak, compliant, and forever seeking validation from others. Friedrich Nietzsche, the philosopher who dared to question everything society taught us about morality and power, understood that attraction operates according to laws that have nothing to do with being good and everything to do with being authentic, powerful, and dangerously independent. What you're about to discover will shatter every comfortable lie you have been told about relationships, reveal why the nice guy always finishes last, and show you how to transform from someone who chases into someone who is irresistibly chaste. But be warned, once you see the truth about attraction through Nietzschean eyes, you can never go back to the safe mediocrity of seeking approval from those who should be seeking yours. Most men approach attraction like beggars seeking approval, desperately hoping someone will validate their worth. They hand over their power the moment they meet a woman, transforming from sovereign beings into needy supplicants. This is the antithesis of what Nietzsche called the will to power, the fundamental drive that separates the exceptional from the mediocre. When you operate from will to power, you become the source of your own value rather than seeking it from others. The will to power in attraction means you enter every interaction as someone who creates rather than consumes energy. You do not ask permission to exist in your full glory, nor do you apologize for taking up space in the world. Your presence becomes magnetic because you embody the rare quality of self-determination, the ability to generate your own meaning and purpose. Women sense this immediately because most men they encounter are energy vampires, constantly seeking external fuel for their fragile egos. This is not about domination or control over others, but mastery over yourself and your own destiny. When you embody will to power, you become dangerous in the most attractive way possible because you represent possibility itself. You are the man who writes his own story rather than playing a supporting role in someone else's narrative. This transformation from reactor to creator is what separates boys from men, and ordinary men from those who command genuine respect and desire. Society has programmed you to believe that attraction follows a set of moral rules, that being good equals being attractive. You have been taught to be nice, agreeable, and morally pristine, as if women are moral accountants tallying your good deeds. This is the slave morality that Nietzsche warned against, the belief system that keeps exceptional men trapped in mediocrity. The truth is that attraction operates beyond conventional good and evil, in a realm where authenticity trumps artificial virtue. Creating your own moral code means you stop seeking approval from the herd and start living by principles you have consciously chosen. You become dangerous because you cannot be controlled by guilt, shame, or social expectations that keep other men in line. When you interact with women from this space, they encounter something rare, a man who is not trying to prove his worthiness, but simply existing in his own power. This creates an intoxicating dynamic, because most women are surrounded by men who are desperate for moral validation. Your moral code becomes your strength rather than your weakness, because it emerges from your own will rather than external pressure. You do not apologize for your desires, your ambitions, or your refusal to conform to others' expectations of how you should behave. This does not mean becoming cruel or heartless, but rather becoming selectively compassionate, choosing when and how to extend your energy based on your own values rather than societal programming. The Übermensch is not a fantasy, but a psychological reality available to any man willing to transcend his conditioning. Most men operate from the same predictable patterns, responding to women with the same tired scripts of neediness, validation-seeking, and emotional reactivity. They have become what Nietzsche called the last men, comfortable in their mediocrity and terrified of standing apart from the crowd. The Übermensch mindset means you refuse to be another generic male, competing for scraps of attention in a marketplace of desperation. To embody this transcendent mindset, you must first recognize that you have been living according to values that were never truly yours. The need to impress, to conform, to seek constant approval, these are inherited weaknesses that keep you trapped in ordinary consciousness. When you begin to shed these limitations, you discover capacities within yourself that most men never access. You become unpredictable in the most magnetic way because you operate from a different set of principles entirely. The Übermensch in relationships means you become the exception that proves every rule about attraction. You do not chase because you have become worth chasing. You do not compete because you occupy a category of one. This transformation is not about superiority over others, but about mastery over your former self. When women encounter this level of self-possession, they recognize something that transcends ordinary male energy, something that calls to the deepest parts of their nature, that crave genuine strength and authenticity. Nietzsche posed the ultimate test of authenticity. What if you had to live this exact life infinite times, every choice repeated eternally without change? Most men fail this test spectacularly in their relationships, making decisions based on fear, desperation, or social pressure rather than genuine desire. They tolerate disrespect, chase unavailable women, and compromise their values for temporary validation. The man who embraces eternal recurrence lives differently because he understands that every moment is both fleeting and forever. When you apply this principle to attraction, you stop wasting time on interactions that drain your energy or diminish your spirit. You become selective not from arrogance, but from wisdom, recognizing that your time and attention are finite resources that should be invested only where they can flourish. This creates a powerful shift in your presence because women can sense when a man values his own time and energy enough to be discerning about how he spends them. Living as if every moment matters means you bring full presence to your interactions. Rather than going through the motions of dating, you stop playing games because games are for those who have infinite time to waste on meaningless pursuits. This intensity of purpose becomes magnetic because it stands in stark contrast to the casual indifference that characterizes most modern interactions. When you embody eternal recurrence, you become the man who creates moments worth repeating forever. Modern dating culture operates on slave morality, a system that rewards conformity, neediness, and the desperate pursuit of validation from others. You have been conditioned to believe that your worth depends on how many matches you get, how quickly someone responds to your messages, or whether you can make someone else happy at the expense of your own authenticity. This is the morality of the weak, those who define themselves entirely through the opinions and reactions of others. Master morality means you create your own standards and live by values that emerge from your own strength rather than external approval. The slave mentality in dating manifests as constant comparison, endless strategizing about what to say or do to get a desired response, and the belief that rejection is a verdict on your fundamental worth. Men trapped in this mindset become performing monkeys, desperately trying to entertain their way into someone's affections. Master morality flips this dynamic entirely because you stop seeking validation and start offering genuine value from a place of abundance rather than scarcity. When you embody master morality, you become dangerous to the dating marketplace because You refuse to play by rules designed to keep you desperate and controllable. You do not chase because you have become worth chasing. You do not beg for attention because you command respect through your presence alone. This shift from slave to master consciousness is what separates men who are chosen from men who chase, those who create attraction from those who desperately seek it from others. Nietzsche believed that life should be lived as an aesthetic creation, that you should sculpt your existence with the same care and intentionality that an artist brings to their masterpiece. Most men live unconsciously, following predetermined scripts and societal expectations without ever asking themselves what kind of life would truly reflect their deepest nature and highest aspirations. They drift through relationships, careers, and daily routines like sleepwalkers, never realizing that they have the power to design their existence according to their own vision of beauty and meaning. When you begin to approach your life as an artistic creation, everything changes, including how you move through romantic relationships. You stop settling for mediocre experiences or people who diminish your energy, because you understand that every choice you make is adding brushstrokes to the canvas of your existence. This aesthetic consciousness makes you selective not from arrogance, but from artistic integrity, the same way a master painter chooses only the colors that serve his vision. The man who lives aesthetically becomes magnetic because he represents possibility itself, the rare individual who has refused to accept the bland conformity that characterizes most lives. Women are drawn to this creative approach to existence because they sense they are in the presence of someone who is actively creating something beautiful rather than passively accepting whatever life hands him. You become attractive not because you are trying to impress anyone, but because you have committed to the ongoing masterpiece of becoming your most authentic and powerful self. Amor fati means loving your fate, embracing everything that happens to you as necessary for your growth and transformation. Most men experience romantic rejection as a devastating blow to their self-worth, proof that they are somehow fundamentally flawed or unworthy of love. They waste enormous energy fighting against reality, wishing things were different, or trying to convince someone to change their mind about them. This resistance to what is creates suffering and weakness, turning rejection into a poison that corrupts your entire relationship with yourself and others. When you truly embrace amor fati, rejection becomes fuel for your evolution rather than evidence of your inadequacy. You understand that every no is clearing the path toward a yes that actually matters, that every closed door is protecting you from a situation that would have diminished your power or compromised your authenticity. This shift in perspective transforms you from victim to victor, from someone who is defeated by obstacles to someone who is strengthened by them. The man who loves his fate becomes magnetically attractive because he radiates the confidence of someone who cannot be broken by external circumstances. Women sense this unshakable foundation and are drawn to it because they rarely encounter men who are not at the mercy of others' opinions and reactions. When you embody amor fati, you become dangerous in the most attractive way possible because you represent the rare man who has made peace with reality and found strength in acceptance rather than weakness in resistance. Nietzsche understood that true power comes from the integration of opposing forces, the marriage of passion and discipline, that he called the Dionysian spirit. Most men fall into one of two traps, either suppressing their natural desires and becoming lifeless conformists, or surrendering completely to impulse and becoming slaves to their appetites. The Dionysian man transcends this false dichotomy by embracing his passions while maintaining mastery over them. He feels deeply, but is not controlled by his feelings. He desires intensely, but is not desperate in his pursuit. This integration of passion and control creates a magnetic presence that women find irresistible because it represents the best of both worlds. You become the man who can feel deeply without losing himself, who can pursue what he wants without becoming needy or desperate. Your emotions become fuel for your power rather than evidence of your weakness. Your desires become expressions of your vitality rather than sources of your suffering. The Dionysian approach to attraction means you bring full intensity to your interactions while maintaining your center and your standards. You do not hide your passion or pretend to be indifferent, but neither do you allow your passion to make you foolish or desperate. This creates a rare dynamic where women can feel both your strength and your sensitivity, your power and your depth. You become dangerous because you represent integrated masculinity, the union of heart and mind that most men never achieve. Nietzsche taught that there are no facts, only interpretations, that reality is shaped by the perspective through which you view it. Most men allow others to define the meaning of their romantic experiences, accepting interpretations that diminish their power and worth. They see rejection as failure, disinterest as inadequacy, and conflict as evidence that they are fundamentally flawed. This passive approach to meaning-making keeps them trapped in victim consciousness, constantly at the mercy of how others choose to interpret their value and worth. When you master perspectivism, you become the author of your own story, rather than a character in someone else's narrative. You interpret every interaction through the lens of your own power and growth, rather than seeking validation from external sources. A woman's disinterest becomes information about compatibility rather than judgment about your worth. Her tests become opportunities to demonstrate your strength rather than threats to your security. This mastery over interpretation creates a magnetic confidence because you operate from unshakable self-possession. Women sense that you cannot be manipulated through guilt, shame, or emotional games because you maintain authority over the meaning you assign to every situation. You become dangerous because you represent the rare man who creates his own reality, rather than accepting the diminished version that others would impose upon him. This psychological sovereignty is perhaps the most attractive quality a man can possess. Nietzsche understood that true strength is forged in solitude, that the exceptional man must be willing to walk alone rather than compromise his authenticity for the comfort of belonging. Most men are terrified of being alone and will sacrifice their individuality to avoid the discomfort of standing apart from the crowd. They seek constant companionship not from genuine desire, but from fear of facing themselves without distraction. This desperate need for connection creates a needy energy that repels the very intimacy they seek, because healthy attraction requires two complete individuals choosing each other rather than two incomplete halves seeking completion. The man who has learned to thrive in solitude possesses a rare and magnetic quality. He is comfortable with himself and does not need others to feel whole or worthy. This self-sufficiency becomes attractive because it signals that any relationship he enters will be based on genuine desire rather than desperate need. Women can sense the difference between a man who wants their company and one who needs it, and they are naturally drawn to the former because it promises a dynamic of mutual enhancement rather than codependent drain. Your willingness to be alone when necessary demonstrates the highest form of self-respect and creates space for authentic connections to emerge. You stop clinging to relationships that diminish you and start attracting interactions that elevate you because you have proven to yourself that you would rather be alone than settle for less than you deserve. This inner strength transforms you into a rare commodity in a world full of desperate men, someone whose presence is a gift rather than a burden, whose love is a choice rather than a compulsion. The question that will haunt you tonight is this: are you living as the man you were meant to become, or are you still playing the role that others assigned to you? Still seeking permission to exist in your full power when you could be commanding the respect and desire that comes naturally to those who refuse to apologize for their strength. If these Nietzschean principles have awakened something dangerous within you, something that refuses to settle for the scraps of attention that most men fight over, then you are ready to continue this journey of transformation. Subscribe now, because the next video will reveal the specific words and behaviors that separate the chosen from the chasers, the masters from the slaves, and I promise you, what you learn will change not just how women see you, but how you see yourself.